Hi everyone, and welcome to Top Team Testing. In this series, I go over a recently successful team and analyze its strengths, weaknesses, and common game plans through the lens of several replays, including a best of 3. In one 10-minute video, give or take, you should feel comfortable bringing this team to a local tournament if we ever get them back, or in this case, perhaps the Victory Road tournament that's happening this weekend. This week, we're featuring a team that Hirofumi Kimura used to win a Japanese ladder tournament last Saturday, just after Crown Tundra released. This team revolves around Thundurus, which for the first time since 2013 gets its hidden ability Defiant. Combined with the power of Dynamax, this makes it a potent physical attacker, clicking Max Airstream without worrying about its speed getting reduced, Max Knuckle without worrying about its attack getting reduced, as well as strong electric type moves for coverage. Hirofumi pairs it with several other Pokemon that appreciate getting the attack and speed boost. Its Unovan brother Landorus provides Earthquakes that form a strong pin with Max Airstream. On the other hand, Kartana usually only needs one boost, either in speed or attack, to pick up a KO and start steamrolling the opposing team with Beast Boost. Urshifu also benefits from attack boosts, although interestingly, Hirofumi opted to use a Choice Scarf on it. This allows it to outspeed Dragapult while also getting the KO on other prominent threats like Metagross. Cresselia supports these attackers with Icy Wind, Helping Hand, and yes, Ally Switch. It can also reset Trick Room against slower teams, or set up Trick Room against faster teams, which can really help the last Pokemon, which is Heatran with a weakness policy on it, clean up games. This team aims to position strong physical attackers next to each other and give them useful boosts, normally their Max Knuckle. Once the key threat is removed, almost anything on the team can power through the rest of the team with just a single attack boost. It has a wealth of offensive options to choose from, and just enough defensive synergy to reposition if something does go wrong on turn 0. With that, let's get into the games. Our first game shows off how the Thundurus mode wins most games. We're playing against a rain team with a wealth of defensive options. Our opponent leads Grimmsnarl and Zapdos into our Thundurus and Kartana, and we both max our flying electric types. They set up Reflect, and we get an Airstream and Leaf Blade off, which doesn't quite KO the Grimmsnarl. Their Airstream brings Kartana down to Sash. Turn 2, we get to trade Airstreams once again, while also trading knockouts. They bring in their Politoed, and we bring in our Cresselia. The Politoed goes for a Helping Hand, and we go for a Max Lightning, which straight up KOs the Politoed. They go for a boosted Max Rockfall, which fails to KO the Thundurus, but also turns off the rain. Maybe they thought that was for the better, because we could have set up Trick Room, but instead, we just go for an Icy Wind. Then, their Kingdra comes in and protects, but it's okay, because we go for a Helping Hand and Wild Charge into the Zapdos to pick up the KO. Thundurus goes down to Recoil, but it's no big deal. We bring in our Urshifu, and our opponent forfeits. While Thundurus is really good at trading Max Airstreams, the team can struggle against things that are faster than it. Here, our opponent leads Tapu Lele and Metagross as we lead Thundurus and Urshifu. Now, our Scarf Urshifu is adamant, so as long as their Lele isn't timid Choice Scarf, we should outspeed, and of course they are. So, we pick up the KO on Tapu Lele, but their Max Hailstorm picks up the KO on Thundurus, and we aren't pulling this one back. Let's just move on to the next game. This time, our opponent is on what looks like a hard Trick Room team with a Sun mode. They lead Stakataka and Indeedee, while we lead the Genie Bros. We go ahead and max the Thundurus, and they opt not to click Follow Me. Weird. Well, we'll just Max Knuckle the Indeedee anyways, give Landorus the attack boost, and then go ahead and take 2 KOs with Earthquake. They bring in the Hatterene and the Ice Horse, and they choose to max the Horse. However, we just knock out the Hatterene with a boosted Max Electric, and even though they take a KO, they can't 4v1 through Heatran. Now, these games went really quick, but that's how a lot of matches early in the metagame's development seem to go. This team really wants to win Team Preview, and its ways of getting out of negative leads often rely on surprises like Scarf Urshifu as well as Ally Switch on Cresselia. However, you can't always lead the Thundurus and power through teams. In this game, we abuse the fact that Kartana is also a crazy strong Max Pokemon. Here, our opponent has his defensive core along with strong options to enable the Metagross. We lead Urshifu and Cresselia in fear of those options, while they lead Togekiss and Umbreon. We decide not to let them KO the Urshifu turn 1 and switch it out to Heatran. We go for an Icy Wind, and they Dazzling Gleam and Snarl, all for minimal damage. Now, Cresselia isn't doing very much, so we bring in Kartana for some pressure. They protect the Togekiss, so our Flash Cannon does nothing, and Snarl does a decent chunk of damage to Kartana. It's then I remember that our Kartana doesn't actually have Smart Strike. Heatran comes out for Cresselia, while they bring in the Raichu in fear of a Steel move. We protect Kartana from a Snarl, but instead see Foul Play, which we're really going to have to play around. Kartana comes out for Heatran, and we drop each other's speeds, but thankfully we don't get Snarled this time. They go for a Nuzzle into the Heatran, but joke's on them, we're slow as heck anyway. Cresselia can't switch out safely because all of our Pokemon take too much damage, so we keep Icy Winding and they Snarl again, and our Earth Power damage reveals that the Raichu is probably an Assault Vest variant. They switch out the Raichu, but thankfully we played it safe and chipped the Umbreon before taking a Snarl. At this point, I really just want the free switch. We go for an Icy Wind, then they go for a Dazzling Gleam, and then we go and try to go Flash Cannon, except unfortunately our Heatran gets fully paralyzed. Then they go for another Snarl, but our Cresselia dodges it, which means hopefully next turn we'll get 2 free switches and get better positioning. They switch in Metagross and take 2 very weak attacks, and then they do go for a Snarl, which gives us a free double switch. We go into Kartana and Urshifu, and it is time to get some Beast Boosts. We max the Kartana, go for a close combat into Umbreon, and go for a max Knuckle, picking up a KO and the first 2 attack boosts. They don't max the Metagross, strangely, and instead go for an Iron Head into Urshifu, which doesn't do quite enough damage. They bring in Raichu and switch out into Togekiss and don't click Fake Out, but we're Scarf, so we outspeed them. We also go for a max Knuckle after picking up the Raichu, which has very little Togekiss but gives us yet another attack boost. Metagross comes back in and goes for a Dynamax, but Togekiss clicks Protect and not Follow Me. That's okay with us. Our close combat damage wanted to go into the Metagross anyways. They go for a Steel Spike, as our Max Grass does very little damage to the Togekiss, but that's okay. Our Dynamax ends, but our Leaf Blade goes ahead and KOs the Togekiss because we are at +4 attack now. The Steel Spike does not do enough damage to Metagross, but they do get another defense boost. No worry, we have a way around that. Sacred Sword ignores the defense boosts and KOs the max Metagross, and we win the game. Let's finish it off with a best of 3. Our opponent has Amoonguss, which can be a real problem for this team. They also have both Dragapult and Regieleki, so this will be a good test against teams that are faster than us. They lead Regieleki and Dragapult, while we lead Urshifu and Thundurus, and we both go for max on our Airstream users. We go for a Sucker Punch into Dragapult, and thankfully, they aren't weakness policy. So while Volt Switch does KO the Urshifu, they're forced to max Airstream for minimal damage into Thundurus, while we KO the Dragapult in response with our own max Airstream, which notably leaves us faster than the Regieleki. We bring in the Kartana, and they bring in the Eleki, and so while they go for Rage Powder, we double into the Amoonguss, picking up a Beast Boost. Notably, our Kartana is now faster than the Regieleki, telling us that they are modest, and the Thunderbolt does so much damage to the Thundurus, meaning that they are probably, hopefully, choice specs. We go for a double Protect to avoid a Fake Out, and then they can't really do much. Kartana can clean up the game. We put damage into slots, and while they do find out our Kartana is Focus Sash variant, we very easily win the game. Game 2 has the same leads and the same Dynamaxes. They go for a Volt Switch into our Thundurus and switch into the Amoonguss. Our Wicked Blow does chunk the Amoonguss, but a second attack into Thundurus knocks it out before it can move. We play it out, but this game doesn't look too good. They switch in the Incineroar to eat a Wicked Blow from our Urshifu, and Dragapult takes yet another KO. We go for a Swords Dance on Kartana to try to give ourselves just a little bit of damage output for the rest of the game. We bring in Heatran, and they fake it out while we protect our Kartana. But then, their Wyrmwind puts us back to neutral and also breaks our Sash. They go for a Phantom Force, and our Kartana still manages to get the KO on the Incineroar. They bring in the Regieleki, and then the double up KOs the Heatran as our Leaf Blade fails to land the critical hit we need to KO the Dragapult. We're not living in attack from Regieleki anyways, so let's just move on to Game 3. This game shows why Amoonguss can be a real problem for this team. I decided to take a slightly different approach this game, ideally by stacking boosts with Heatran since they haven't brought their Heatran checks. They smartly doubled the Heatran turn 1 as Thundurus goes for a Protect, but I knew they couldn't switch Incineroar into a Thundurus because of Defiant, so I make the very safe read by clicking Max Flare into what is now an Amoonguss, dropping it all the way down to Focus Sash. At +1 speed, this could be a problem. They get a second speed boost with another Airstream, and the Amoonguss outspeeds the Thundurus at +2 speed, revealing it is max speed, and puts the Heatran to sleep before we can take it out with a Thundurus superpower. Our Heatran takes a first turn of sleep, and they bring Regieleki back in. We bring in the Landorus to try to keep things alive, and they go for a max Phantasm into Heatran, as well as an Electroweb with the Regieleki, which our Heatran just barely survives. Unfortunately, we don't get the one-turn sleep, and our Heatran stays asleep as both of our Dynamax ends. Eleki can't touch Landorus, so they switch it out into the Incineroar, as Dragon Darts KOs the Heatran and does a chunk of damage to Landorus. We go for an Earthquake, and we crit the Incineroar giving us the KO and putting us in a commanding position. We bring Urshifu in, Sucker Punch the Dragapult, and while they do pick up a KO with Regieleki, it really just can't touch this Landorus, and we take the 2-1 win. So let's recap. This team uses Thundurus as a strong Dynamax candidate, allowing it to stack speed and attack boosts for both itself and other strong physical attackers. Thundurus itself may be the best Pokemon for this role. It wins almost every Airstream war thanks to its high speed and resistance to opposing max Airstreams. These are the main reasons to use it over something like Galarian Zapdos, which also has Defiant, but is slightly slower, more bulky, and more powerful. The other bonus is that Thundurus has fantastic electric stab coverage, which allows it to hit one of the biggest bulky threats in the format in Tapu Fini. The downside is that Thundurus is much frailer, and so it gets KO'd by a lot of attacks even while Dynamaxed. The team itself showcases some very powerful synergies that look to be major threats as the metagame evolves. Boosting Kartana and Landorus' attack and speed can often steamroll games. It is one of the scariest leads to face down and something you should definitely be prepared for. Similarly, Heatran and Cresselia have been a fantastic defensive pairing for as long as I've been playing VGC, and that is still true in Series 7. While some of the sets on this team are a little suspect, it's worth keeping in mind that 1. This was made on day 2 of the format and things change very quickly, and 2. This was a best of 1 ladder tournament, and I have no doubt that Hirofumi would build it very differently for an open team sheet best of 3 tournament like Players' Cup or like the Victory Road tournaments happening this weekend. For example, I don't know if Scarf Urshifu is actually the best Urshifu set, but it definitely catches a lot of people off guard. Furthermore, this team is weak to Amoonguss if it can't get going. It doesn't have great ways to prevent sleep, Cresselia doesn't have a Psychic move, and Heatran loses a lot of momentum by clicking Overheat, especially if the target switches out. However, this is not evident at all in Team Preview, so I can see how you would get by on a ladder. Heatran's weakness policy never meaningfully procced for me in testing, so this could be changed to something like Safety Goggles to potentially improve that matchup. All in all, it's a fantastic showcase of one of the strongest new Dynamax threats in the format, and it boasts very strong synergy with cores like Thundurus, Kartana, Landorus, as well as Cresselia, Heatran, that you can definitely utilize on your own teams moving forward. Also, please let me know what you think of this video. This is how I wanted to showcase the top new teams in a metagame rather than a Road to Ranked style series that there's already a million of on VGC YouTube. But this is also very different from everything else, so please let me know what you think. I'm definitely accepting feedback. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.